Welcome to another episode of I Wonder, Doctor.
I'd like to talk about sugar diabetes, diabetes mellitus, and answer the question, just what is it?
My guess is that people don't really care what it is. They want to know what they can do about it.
Let me take you on a journey to understand it first. We human beings, we must have sugar, or glucose as it's known.
Yeah.
And it comes from the carbohydrate portion of our food, and it's our brains. Sugar is the only fuel it can use to operate. Our muscles can use sugar, our organs can use sugar, but they also can use essential fats and protein. Brains, only glucose. And not only that, our brains must have a sustained, optimal level of glucose in the blood at all times. And should the blood glucose drop too low, as it will if you haven't eaten for 12 hours or 4 hours, there's wonderful internal mechanisms to mobilize stored glucose and keep that blood glucose in an optimal range. When you eat a meal that has carbohydrate in it, as most do, that blood glucose is going to go up, and that's fine. At that point, the body has a very important designated hormone and mechanisms to bring that blood glucose down, and that's very important.
There's sort of two things I've heard so far. One of them is that we always need to have sugar in our blood. It's just important that it doesn't go too high. It also can't go too low. And the other detail I noticed you say is that we need carbs. Carbs have a bad reputation right now, but what I heard you say is we can't survive without them at all. It's the only way our brains survive is off of carbs.
That's right.
Huh.
Over the long run, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, when we eat carbs again, the blood glucose is going to rise.
Yeah.
And where problems develop is if the blood glucose rises and the mechanisms to bring it back into normal range are a little off,
yeah,
and you get sustained, elevated levels of blood glucose. That's injurious, as I'll explain in a future video.
Too much sugar for too long. That's the problem.
That's diabetes.
Yeah.
And that has significant consequences.
So what I would be wondering would be, if I had diabetes, are there things that can be done other than taking insulin that can be done to help heal diabetes?
Absolutely. There's a lot of them. But ultimately, we've got to come to grips with there's too much sugar in the blood.
Yeah.
And we must address that, and we must be successful at it.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, there's a lot of other things that can be important and can support the prevention or the reversal of diabetes.
Because we can bring those sugars down either by consuming less of them or by fixing the mechanism that pulls that sugar out of the blood, or maybe some combination.
Precisely.
Got it. Great. There are more videos in this series available in our weekly school. Click to join. It's free.